Hello, my dear students. So this is the second slide or the second class that I'm preparing. So I've made this PowerPoint and it is on the second topic, that is configuration of ocean floor, in which you can also have a similar question which is similar to configuration of ocean floor. A question might come as relief of the ocean floor. Alright, so configuration, basically it means the arrangements. Alright, arrangements of the ocean floor. And what are those arrangements? Basically it is the relief features which are found under the ocean, which we have discussed last class, right? So now we will go into the details about all of those relief features. So now when we say oceans, we have discussed last class, we have different types of oceans, right? Oceans, they make up 70% of the Earth's surface. The oceans are confined to the great depressions of the Earth's outer layer. In this section, we shall see the nature of the ocean basins of the Earth and their topography. Okay, so the oceans are confined to the great depressions. Depressions, why? Because it is the depth of the ocean surface. Alright, so before we go into that, so let me just remind you again, there are different types of seas and oceans in the world, and the most important oceans which we have are Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic and Southern Ocean. Alright, okay, so you know this since school time. Alright, okay. Why I'm telling you about this, I'm showing you this map so that it will be easier for us if we will discuss certain or specific relief features which are associated with these oceans, right? Okay, so in this particular slide we have here profile elevation of the earth. We need to discuss the profile elevation of the earth so that we'll get a clear concept about the measurement, how exactly we measure the earth surface, all right, and how is it different from the measurement we use for the oceans. Okay, so we have here, can you see this sea level? All right, whenever we measure the height of a relief feature above the sea level, okay, or on the earth's surface, basically we used to measure it and we used to give a term, like example Mount Everest is the height of Mount Everest is 8,850 meters. We always mention above the sea level. It means the measurement starts from here till there. Alright, okay, so this is the 0 point. Okay, the sea level, it always have, it means it is 0 meters. Clear, right? And it shows the height above the sea level. Okay, and what is opposite to height or elevation? Okay, it shows the elevation of that particular relief feature. All right, but in the oceans, basically we need to keep this in mind. We measure the relief features, okay, below the sea level. That is why we don't call it elevation, but we call it the depth. Okay, depth of the oceans. And how do we measure the depth? It starts from the sea level below. Okay, because why? The ocean is a big depression, right? So that is why we need to measure its depth. Alright, okay, please keep this in mind. Clear? So we have here A major portion of the ocean floor is found between 3 to 6 kilometers below the sea level. The floors of the oceans are rugged, with the world's largest mountain ranges, deepest trenches, and the largest plains. These features are formed like those of the continents by the factors of tectonic, volcanic, and depositional processes. The only difference is that they are formed below the sea level, or they are formed on the ocean floor. Alright, okay, but the same processes are involved. That is the factors of tectonic features. You have the plate movements, okay, and then sea floor spreading, all of that which you did in your first unit. Alright, so all of those concepts you need to remember, and the same will be relevant in understanding the relief features of the ocean floor. Clear? So please remember, whenever we talk about the ocean, we measure the depth. Alright? If there are some measurements which says that, suppose if I say a certain sea mound, it rises maybe 100 meters above the ocean floor. When it is mentioned above the ocean floor, or it measures the height or elevation of that, it means that the point or the surface which they use to measure is the ocean floor. Alright, but mostly whenever we measure relief feature, we measure the depth. Clear? But if we want to see the rise of a particular relief from the ocean floor, then sometimes we can measure its height or elevation, but the relevant point will be from the ocean floor. Alright, okay, so please don't be confused about that. Okay, so here we have the highest mountain on the earth's surface. When we'll talk only about the surface features, highest mountain we have is Mount Everest. It is 8,850 meters, whereas the deepest part of the ocean, okay, from the sea level, the deepest part of the ocean is the Mariana Trench. See, 11,022 meters. That is why the ocean depth is much more deep as compared to the features which are found on the Earth's surface. Okay, so now we'll move to the next slide. So we have here divisions of the ocean floors. Okay, so before we look into the different relief features, first of all we need to know the division of the ocean floor. Right, so the ocean floor can be divided into two parts based on the composition of the Earth's crust. I think you remember the Earth's crust. Okay, it is mainly comprises of of different broken parts which are known as plates. Okay, so those plates, they can be continental plates, or they can be made up of continental crust, or they can be oceanic crust. Alright, okay, so we have here the ocean floor can be divided into two parts based on the composition of the Earth's crust. The Earth's crust is that portion which floats on top of the mantle. Remember, if you remember the interior of the Earth, we have first the core, okay, and then we have the asthenosphere or the mantle, right? The asthenosphere, that liquid portion which have magma in it, that liquid fire portion, and on top of it we have the crust. All right, the crust which floats on top of that liquid magma. Okay, so the crust is divided into two types, which is the continental crust and the oceanic crust. Okay, So all the relief features which are found on the continents, they have their foundation on the continental crust. Alright? Whereas all the relief features which are associated with the ocean, they have their foundation, or they are made up on top of the oceanic crust. Alright? Okay? So basically crusts are what the plates they uh, they settle on. Alright? Okay? So we have plates which are continental in nature, and we also have plates which are oceanic in nature. Right? Okay? So here we have it is divided into two parts. One is the continental margin, and the other is the oceanic basin. Okay, continental margin, which is part of the continental crust, and oceanic basin, which is part of the oceanic crust. Right? If you will look into this, we have here the sea level. Can you see this? This is the sea level. The sea, alright, when we talk about the shorelines, which is over here, where the water starts, okay, a part of the sea or the features below the sea level, it is still the continuation of the continent. Alright, that is why that portion which still falls under the continental crust is known as continental margin. It means the margin of the continent before it joins with the ocean. Alright, that's why it is known as continental margin. And then after the continental margin, from here onwards, we have the oceanic crust. So all the features which are formed on top of the oceanic crust, we call it the oceanic basin. So the ocean floor, it can be divided into two parts, that is continental margin and oceanic basin. Okay, that is based on the composition of the Earth's crust. Clear? I hope it's clear. So if you have any question, you please inquire. Alright, from me, you can ask questions in WhatsApp. So now we have here divisions of the ocean floors. Okay, so the ocean floor, it has various features, it has various relief features, and it is divided into different parts. Okay, so to make it easier to remember, we can divide it into different types. So based on bathymetry. Okay, bathymetry, the relief of the ocean floor can be divided into continental margin, in which under the continental margin we have continental shelf, continental slope, and continental rise. And then we have the ocean basin. Remember the two types, ocean basin, deep oceanic basin, and mid-oceanic ridges. These two, they fall under the same category. Okay, alright, but here we are just giving it into three parts. You'll understand why. So deep oceanic basin, it includes abyssal plains, abyssal hills, sea mounts and goyets, deep sea trenches. These are all the relief features, okay, which are found under the ocean floor and the mid-oceanic ridges also. So now we base this division, it is on the basis of bathymetry. Bathymetry means, alright, so relief of the ocean floor can be measured by bathymetry. When we talk about topography, topography refers to the elevation of a land with reference to the sea level. Remember that diagram? which we have discussed in the second slide. So we have there the sea level, right? So anything, suppose this is the sea level, anything which we measure above the sea level, we term it as elevation of the land, right? Okay. Whereas the opposite of that, the opposite of topography, we call it as bathymetry. It refers to the depth of the water column below the sea level. So if this is the sea level, so the depth means this is the 0 meters level, right? So the depth from here to the ocean floor, that is termed as bathymetry. So we divide all of these features based on bathymetry. Its depth from the sea level. Clear? So bathymetry refers to the depth zones of ocean basins depicted as charts and maps prepared using depth sounding techniques. Okay, so they measure the depth. The words bathys means depth and metry means measurement. Alright, okay. So now we will go into the next slide. But please remember, based on bathymetry, we can divide it into continental margin, which we have the continental shelf, continental slope, and continental rise. Alright? And then as we go deeper into the ocean, we have the deep oceanic basin. And the deep oceanic basin or the ocean basin, we have different features which rise from the ocean. That is the abyssal plain, abyssal hills, seamounts and goyets, deep sea trenches, and mid-oceanic ridges. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. Now, see, these are the features of the ocean floor. Okay, so we have this portion, it forms part of the continental crust. So that is why we have the shoreline over here where the sea level starts. Okay, see this sea level. So we have this shoreline over here and this is the 0 meters. Right. So this portion over here is known as the continental margin because it still forms part of the continent. It is an extension of the continent towards the water or towards the sea. Right. Okay. So this continental margin, it is divided into 3 parts. That is the continental shelf, the area immediately after the continent. Alright, just below the shoreline, we have the continental shelf, and then after the continental shelf, we have the continental slope. The slope area, the slope of the continent is known as the continental slope. Alright, and we have the continental rise over here. It means continental rise. Why we call it rise? Because the ocean basin, it rises from this portion towards the continents. Okay, that is why we call it continental rise. So this portion till here, it is known as the continental margin. It is divided into the continental shelf, continental slope, which is the portion from here till here, and the continental rise, which is this portion. A very small portion. Some areas doesn't have a continental rise. Okay, please keep that in mind. So like this. Okay, there are vector diagrams, so we'll discuss on that. So if you will see, we have here submarine canyons. These are the type of relief features which are associated with continental slopes. They are found in the areas of the continental slope. So we'll discuss about that. So from here we have the ocean floor. Okay, so the ocean floor, it has various types of features. This entire plain area, flat surface like this, This is known as the abyssal plain. Okay, this entire plain area is known as the abyssal plain. And then these hills, small hills which rises from the ocean floor, these are known as abyssal hills. All right. And then we have the mid-oceanic ridges. Okay. And then we have these island arcs. These are mainly volcanic in nature. All right. And these are the deep sea trenches. Okay, it's like a depression. All right. So these are the features of the ocean floor. We will discuss them in detail in the following slide.